Welcome to the football show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Neil Lennon and Tam McManus are with me. Here is what's coming up on today's show.
Brendan Rodgers warns Celtic must sign match winners after Killie defeat. Derek McInnes vows to enjoy this season after horrible campaign last term.
But I didn't really enjoy the league campaign. It was a tough watch at times.
Michael Beale says he's seen Greenock Morton performance before.
Today's game was a carbon copy of Partick, Thistle or Raith Rovers at home last year.
Stuart Kettlewell slams horrendous tackle as Motherwell suffer cup exit.
It's an absolutely horrendous tackle, two-footed tackle, straight leg.
Yeah, unhappy managers and some looking for changes to the overall squad. That seems to be the story. The big story, of course, is when you look at these League Cup results, the League Cup holders, the treble winners from last year, now only have 2 trophies that they can win this season domestically because Kilmarnock knocked Celtic out of the ViaPlay League Cup. That 1-0 win fits into that group of results. Hearts 4, Partick Thistle 0. And of course, elsewhere, Hibs 2, Raith Rovers 1. Airdrie losing out in a 7-goal thriller to Ross County. Livingston 2-0 over Ayr United. St Mirren 1, Motherwell 0. Rangers defeating Greenock Morton by 2-1. And Aberdeen on the Friday night defeating Stirling Albion by 2-1. So, first and foremost, Ruffy, let's deal with Derek McInnes, because sometimes people make it all about Celtic maybe had an off day. Realistically, we've got to give great praise to Derek McInnes and his men. They've taken the scalp of Rangers in the league and they've knocked Celtic out of the cup.
Yeah, they're a team with a lot of confidence behind them. I think he was very positive even before the game to say that the players had enjoyed the Rangers win and they went in. And usual, you know, they got about Celtic very, very early on. You know, obviously Celtic threw 3 new boys in there. I've always said, Neil will know again better than us, that throwing 3 young boys in there with the expectations of what you've got to perform on that surface and playing for Celtic, I don't think they handled the game particularly well. But you're right, don't take anything away from Kilmarnock. I thought they were great from start to finish.
This is what Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers had to say about the defeat. This is a new team that's got a lot of new players in. People will maybe look at it and say this is the same squad. This is not the same squad. This team needs match winners and it needs quality. Hopefully that's something we can do in the next 10 days. Well, there is a scathing comment if ever you've heard it right away. This is him basically saying the treble winners from last year is not the group of winners to beat Kilmarnock in a League Cup match.
Yeah, I think he's obviously setting, you know, a little warning across the board to try and get quality players, and he's signed players. I'm not saying project players, but boys at 22, 23, you know, £2-3 million pound players who they're possibly looking to sell in a few years. He needs quality. You know, he's been linked with Kieran Tierney, he's been linked with Pudence at Wolves. Guys of that ilk need to come in. Guys that are going to come straight in and improve the team. And I think that performance yesterday would have set a lot of alarm bells ringing with Celtic fans and with Brendan Rodgers. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I think he's got to bring in 2 or 3. He needs another striker. He needs a physical presence up there, because yesterday it was, you know, there was no physical presence up there. They kept trying to play through the middle. Kilmarnock had clogged the middle up, you know, defended crosses into the box, and they were devoid of ideas in the last 20 minutes. When you thought Celtic were going to go and push and put pressure on, it didn't really happen.
Yeah, I'm going to get your thoughts, Neil, on the overall project that he has facing him. But first and foremost, let's deal with it all one by one. Is it a penalty? Celtic, last minute?
No, not for me. Not enough contact, and I think he's looking for it. And he, you know, I was at the game and I can't remember, you know, too much being mad about it either. You know, like Celtic were very flat yesterday. Kilmarnock, you got to give them a lot of credit, but I always think it's a difficult place to go with the pitch being, even when it was with Hibs or with Celtic, it was always a tough venue, and it's quite clear to me that the squad isn't ready yet, or it's not right. Maybe people say, well, it should be, but you know, they've lost Carter Vickers, they've lost Atate, they're bringing in new players, trying to bed them in. So I didn't think defensively that was the problem yesterday, Pete. There was a real lack of creativity. Didn't work the goalkeeper anywhere near that Brendan probably would have wanted. And I think Celtic fans should be pleased by the fact that he's going, I need quality in there, and that's quite apparent.
Yeah, penalty for you, Ruffy?
No, I think I was saying to Sam earlier, I think there was contact, but not enough, you know, for him to throw himself. Obviously, it's the latter stages of the game. most strikers, when they get that contact, will go down, you know. But I think the both of them, I think the boy went to play the ball and he just caught his foot, but not to pull him down.
Okay, that's 3 that don't think it's a penalty. So over to you, Dermot Gallagher.
I thought it was a stonewall penalty, Peter. I thought it was a stonewall penalty. As a striker myself, when you're in that situation, you're driving to the byline, all you want to do is get a touch on the ball. And I think he gets a touch on the ball, Mayo comes across, gets nowhere near the ball, clips him, he's looking for it, but of course he's looking for it. All strikers are looking for a penalty in the box at that time, and he clips him, and for me it's a clear penalty. I was astonished that they never had a look at it. Well, they did have a look at it in VAR, and within 10-15 seconds it was play on, and I think Celtic were hard done by, but I'm not wanting to take anything away for Kilmarnock. I didn't think Celtic deserved anything out of the game. But if you're asking me in isolation about that incident, I thought it was a stonewall penalty kick.
Okay, if you're going to be brutally honest about it, Celtic should have more than enough to defeat Kilmarnock. Bedding in or not, they've got a squad that clearly has got more quality, but they didn't do it, and we're going to focus on Kilmarnock in a moment, Neil. But as far as my viewpoint on Brendan Rodgers, there is no way he's not there, and he's not been told that he can't get those 3 or 4 quality players. There's no way you come back to win the league. He's won the league before. Yeah. His remit is Champions League.
No, I totally agree with that. And the squad, even if it's not as good as it was last year, that tells you that it needs quality people for the Champions League. They got 2 points from the group last year, fine. That was the first foray into the Champions League in 4 or 5 years, I get it. And then you want to build on that rather than go the other way. And you're right, I think Brendan's come for the Champions League and to win the title again. So I think over the next 10 days you will see some quality players coming in. He'll demand that from the board.
And the other thing about it, you know better than anybody, being a former Celtic manager, and it's like Gordon Strachan used to say, when you're at Celtic and Rangers, what's the key to being a really good manager? It's win, win and win again. Yeah. It doesn't matter about the overall. I mean, last year's a classic example. Ange Postecoglou, who could do no wrong in the Champions League, great performances, still lost games, still drew games that they should have won. Shakhtar Donetsk comes to mind. It wasn't a great Champions League campaign, even although they got the big game they craved against Real Madrid. They were 5-1 down. We were in the Bernabeu watching it.
When you look at the group, you're going, right, Real Madrid, you want them to run away with it, and then, have a go at Leipzig and Shakhtar Donetsk. And both those teams, Shakhtar weren't even playing in the Ukraine, they were sort of playing in a neutral venue. And I felt, that was a group that Celtic not maybe could have come out of, but certainly finished third. Anyway, like I say, first 4 ended for 4 or 5 years. The players have got the experience of it. They need to build on that now, Peter. And the only way they can build on that is by bringing quality players in. And it's quite apparent that that's what this squad needs now. And that's what Brendan, there's no point in us sitting here going, the board don't know what they're doing, or they're not thinking. Of course they are. They'll be working at this 24/7 for the last few weeks. So I would expect big names and quality players to come in, not just maybe 1, but 2 or 3.
Let's look at Kilmarnock. They got the goal, and then they were able to defend it as well, albeit, you've talked about the penalty, but this is a guy who went through a rough time last season.
No, he did. But the one thing about Kilmarnock last season, their home form was top 4. They were excellent at home. It's a tough place to play. You need to take an extra touch all the time. If you're a winger or a wide man, the ball gets played out to you, you can't hit it in first time, because it could end up bobbling, you could hit it out the stadium. So difficult when you take an extra touch, and they had 3 young players in there, and they were all over Celtic. As soon as Celtic took a touch, bang, in about them. They forced them wide, defended, crossed it into Kyogo. They've got Finlay in there, they've got Mayo in there, headed everything away. Celtic had to get to the byline and flash balls across or cut back. Didn't do that, floated balls in. It was the Celtic strikers were never ever going to go on the end of them. So I think Derek he got his tactics absolutely spot on, and they deserve to win. And for them to keep 3 clean sheets, against Celtic, Rangers and Hearts away, is a fantastic start of the season. I think they've only gave up 2 or 3 shots on target. So the whole team's working as a unit from front to back, and they look a really, really strong side at the minute.
Yeah, and of course Derek himself admits that this season is maybe a chance for him to start to enjoy watching the games again.
Last season was horrible. I didn't enjoy last season at all. I enjoyed the cup run, I enjoyed getting to Hampden, but I didn't really enjoy the league campaign. It was a tough watch at times, and we just needed to get through it. I'm actually want to enjoy my work a bit better this season than
What's your thoughts on him? I mean, I like him as a person, and as a manager, sometimes I thought he was stereotyped into, oh, he's at Aberdeen, he's defensive, should have won more than the League Cup, and there was this kind of a stigma attached to him, whereas this season he's starting to build a side that he wants to, can play when they want to.
He's a quality manager. He's had longevity in the game, which is what we all want. His record at Aberdeen was pretty good, albeit maybe they could have won a few more cups. We got to plenty of finals. He won the League Cup. And then you're going through a period of Celtic domination as well. He's gone into Kilmarnock, got them promoted, which isn't easy to do, but he's done it. Stabilised them last year, albeit it was a bit fraught, and now he's building his own squad in his sort of manner. And he does build from the back forwards. That's always been Derek's way. But what he's done this season is what a lot of coaches couldn't do last year, and that's give the old firm a bloody nose at the start of the season. He's taken points off Rangers, and they've knocked Celtic out of the cup. Now he needs to build on that. There's a good template there. He's got players in. I mean, they've rebuilt the squad. He's got players that he knows, like Watkins. He's got Stuart Finlay back, who's a good player at this level. Robbie Dace, who's done very, very well. They've got good legs in midfield. So the signs are good for Kilmarnock. I wouldn't get carried away with it. It's only the start of the season, but it's a very good start for him.
Yeah, we're all trying to work out who that sixth team is.
Yeah, I mean, you could throw 3 or 4 names into the hat. St Mirren have started the season brilliantly as well. Motherwell under Stuart Kettlewell are very, very good. Livy, I don't think it'll be Livy, because I keep saying Dave keeps going to the well, and there's less money for Dave to work with. Ross County are scoring goals. They've made a decent start to the season and all, Peter. So there's 3 or 4 teams you would put in. I think the top 5 will be set in stone, and then it's going to be an interesting fight for that 6th place.
And of course, as luck would have it, we're sitting here listening to Lee McCulloch saying the old firm games are going to determine who wins the league. I'm not so sure, Ruffy, because
I think the other teams are better.
Well, they're better. That's what's
They
great.
had to be though, Tom. They had to be, Peter. They had to be.
Yeah, that's what we want, Ruffy.
Yeah, we sat here all last year, and I think we got pulled up about it because we said apart from Rangers and Celtic, it was the poorest league with all the other teams you're expecting. The Aberdeens, the Hibs and Hearts had terrible starts for whatever reason. I mean, I just remind me what the gap was at the end. I think it was bigger than what it's ever been.
25 points
plus. I mean, we don't want to see that. We want to see somebody challenging Rangers and Celtic. We want to see somebody getting near the points that they've got without that big gap. I know it's a hard task every year for them, but it's good if you can get one. But I don't know which one that'll be. It looks like Aberdeen are looking pretty solid just now. So I think we're going to get a more exciting league this year than what we had last year.
It's not impossible, Peter, to do it. It's not impossible. I mean, I remember George Burley at Hearts. Started the season till Romanoff, come in and started tinkering with the team. And I remember being at Hibs.
It's not impossible to do what?
To split the whole firm. It's getting harder now, Peter, with the gap, but it's not impossible. If you can get a good start to the season and get a run going, it's not impossible.
I think it'd be difficult this year, Tom, but I understand what you're saying. Hearts did it, and was it 2006, 2007 or something like that. But all I want to see is what I'm seeing at the minute is more competitive games against the big 2 and making it. It was far too easy for them last season, especially the second half of the season. So, Kilmarnock have set down a template now for the rest of the clubs to follow.
What I really want to see, Neil, is what we witnessed last week, which was good results in European football, because suddenly, if the Hearts, a Hibs and Aberdeen have got access to a £7 million kitty from a group stage in the European run, that's fantastic. That takes the club, it transforms them for the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, and then what do they do with the money? Do they invest it back into the squad? We had this conversation a little bit about, particularly Hibs and Hearts, getting into the Europa Conference last year, particularly Hearts, and not having the squad to deal with the rigours of playing on a Thursday night and then, the pressure on the Sunday. If they get through against PAOK, which is a tough draw, and Hibs have got Villa, that's, if they get through, that'll be a miracle. Let's get it right, over the 2 games. But if one of those teams get through, will it be reinvested in the squad before the end of the window so they can sort of have a bigger squad and a more quality squad to cope with both the tournaments.
Interesting. We'll talk about that in greater detail a little later on in the show. This is the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Thank you very much to so many of you who have emailed us, dropped us a line on our app as well, just to see how much they're enjoying the shows that we're putting out there now, because obviously the Women's Football Show is up and running. The Journos show has certainly raised a few eyebrows out in football land in Scotland because of, we nearly had a full-scale punch-up in here, Ruffy, I have to tell you. Once you put journalists together and start Andrew Smith and Hugh McDonald arguing with each other, which is absolutely brilliant.
Alison was going to battle the two of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Alison tried to get a word in with him.
Fighting the winner.
It was a title eliminator. It was well worth watching. And there's more to come this week. So we'll get the Journos, we'll get the Football Show, we'll get the preview show with Kerry. We've got European football coming up this season as well. There's lots to look forward to. And of course, this week coming, I can tell you we've got a new programme that I'm doing called Straight Talk, where basically I'll sit down in a one-to-one with all sorts of footballers, past and present, and people that love the game who work in it as well. This week is not to be missed because in the studio for my first Straight Talk is Hugh Dallas, and he doesn't shirk any of the topics that I put to him, and there's a revelation in there that I think is emotional to say the least, and well worthy of you casting your eye and your ear over it. Straight Talk with Hugh Dallas will be out this week and well worth watching on our YouTube channel. So that's all to look forward to. Hit the subscribe button and download the app if you can. Rangers 2, Morton 1, Ruffy. In the end, it wasn't a classic. No. Rangers didn't play well again, but they got the job done.
Yeah, they certainly did. You know, again, it was a tedious start. You know, they did create a lot of chances, I have to say. Jamie McDonald in goal was absolutely fantastic. Some of his saves were wonderful. But again, we keep saying it with Rangers, you know, it's not until that 65th minute or something like that, he makes a couple of substitutions, and that seems to change the game. He's got a lot of decisions to make. You know, but at the end of the day, they won it. But I think the supporters, probably being supporters, would want to see more convincing against teams like Morton.
Well, is there a parallel to be drawn by a new manager coming in at Celtic with Brendan Rodgers and what Michael Beale's trying to do now? Because he hasn't shirked away from it. It's his team, and he's trying to mould them.
Well, he made a lot of changes, didn't he? Like, Michael's got a run of PSV, Ross County away, PSV away, and then Celtic. So he has to plan for, you know, bigger games, if you want to call it that, more important games. The important thing is they're through to the last 8, and they got a little bit of a boost yesterday by Celtic going out of the competition, so they will start to think about, you know, getting maybe to Hampden in the semi-final. They got a home draw against Livy. Performances will come. You know, it's the same with Celtic. It's so early in the season, performances will come, but at the minute he needs to focus now on this final qualifier. That one's put to bed now. It don't matter if they've played well or not, Pete, they've got through, so that's the most, nobody will remember that in a couple of weeks. The most important thing now is the next couple of weeks for him.
Yeah, just out of curiosity as a manager and what Michael will be going through right now, you know, we always used to, whether it was radio or television and preview shows like this one, you're looking, you're going, well, there's 4 games there. If they lose that one, they're in disarray. If they lose that one, you know, everybody's caving in. It becomes, we enter into a world of madness. Do you, and does Michael have to just stay in his own?
You just got to block it all out and, you know, be conscientious with your work and, you know, think about what your plan is. PSV are a good side, by the way. They comfortably got through against Sturm Graz, so this isn't easy. And like I said, I've said, you know, people might disagree with me. The important one for Michael's the championship. If they get through the Champions League, that's a huge bonus, like, you know what I mean? But for me, you want to see an improvement in performances over the next couple of weeks for that big game against Celtic at the start of next month.
And as far as defeating Morton, I think Michael Beale fairly pragmatic on this one. He reckons it was similar to playing the Jags last season.
Today we've had over 20 shots, and at some stage these chances have got to become goals, because otherwise you don't kill the game or you don't get the result where it needs to be, and everything becomes a little bit more tense than what it needs to be. Today's game was a carbon copy of Partick, Thistle or Raith Rovers at home last year.
Yeah, so as Michael said, and as Neil has mentioned there, they're through, job done, no need to worry about it. Kirk Broadfoot, of all people, says he knew the referee was going to award Rangers a penalty. that's Kirk Broadfoot, by the way.
Rangers. I thought both of them were soft, Peter. I didn't think his was a penalty. I mean, he's anticipated, the boy Dessers has took a kind of heavy touch and he's anticipated. I don't think there's any contact. He goes down. I'm astonished that they got the penalty. And then it's a pull in the box, but that happens in the box in corners. You're jostling, you're trying to get a yard. There's pulls.
Yeah.
It's part of the game. VAR obviously picks it up and they give the penalty. But I thought both of them were soft. But I wasn't too impressed with Rangers. But as Neil said there, they just need to get through to the next round and take that game off and go into the next one.
Yeah, and the next one, of course, PSV is something to look forward to. Everybody is well aware and will watch both legs against Sturm Graz. They certainly get players that can cause Rangers problems. Our journalist Patrick Mullen caught up with Michael Statham, who's a man who's got his eye on Dutch football regularly, week in, week out. And if you want to catch up with what he had to say in greater detail, you can. But this is his insight into this match between Rangers and PSV.
When I compare those three strikers who they've signed, I don't know how many of them will get into the PSV starting 11. I think that's where my head's at, and I think that's what Dutch football fans might use to compare it with. Well, I don't think Dessers would start. I'm not sure where Danilo would fit in. At the moment, that's what shows to me that PSV, if they can handle those three strikers, if they play together, the wide play coming from the full-backs coming up high, then they have every chance of getting through.
Yeah, talks in greater detail about what the qualities PSV have at their disposal. But as you mentioned there, they are a good side. They've got players, especially in the wide areas, that I think will be tricky for Rangers to deal with. Bakayoko, he looks a player as well.
Yeah, I think they're better than they were this time last year. Peakman Rangers knocked them out at the same stage, and that was a great achievement to beat PSV over the two games, and especially winning away from home. I think this is more difficult for Rangers this year. I think they're got a experienced coach in as well, and they've dealt with Sturm Graz, who aren't a bad side. I mean, they beat them comfortably, like 6 or 7 over the two games. So this is a real test. It's the acid test, really. It's going to be really tough.
Yeah, it's just those games, Ruffy, where you have to hope that Rangers can get a foothold in it over. I think the critical element is getting a foothold over here on this one, because it's massive for them. Of course, there's added little spice that PSV are putting out its revenges in the air. That was just the minute the draw was made.
Yeah, I think it's important to win the game. Fortunately, away goals don't count. You would expect them to maybe score. So if Rangers were to get maybe a 2-1 and go over there and do what they usually do, they usually dig out something, But I think they're the more upset about having to play Ross County, where PSV's game's been cancelled. And I think we really have to start looking at our foundation, our association, helping teams that are in Europe. I think it comes a stage when, if other countries are doing it, why should we not be doing it?
It's Ross County away as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, what's the excuse then when you sit down with your chairman, your chief executive, or the owner when you're at the likes of Celtic? You say, is there any chance we could phone and get this game off to help us? How's it batted away?
Because you've got two big clubs in Glasgow, and if you do it for one, you have to do it for the other.
Preferential treatment for one.
Yeah. So I get it, and I think that there's a lot of politics goes on, and then obviously there's the broadcasters as well involved, Pete, where the money has to come in. I just look at it and the timing of the fixtures, whatever way it's come out, for Michael to have to play PSV, Ross County away, and then PSV away, and then Celtic. It's huge couple of weeks from now, that'll shape their season. But that's the layer cake, we've all been through it. And there's no better feeling than qualifying for the Champions League when you do come through the qualifiers. But I know from my own experience, I missed out on a couple of them. It's really tough. It's really tough at this stage of the season.
Is it really tough because if you don't get the ultimate, there's a drop down again, obviously.
Guaranteed the Europa League group.
So yeah, there's the drop down, but is it still a bit of time where you psychologically have to try and get used to stimulating yourself again and saying, I've got a league campaign to
do. Yeah,
Well.
exactly. The one good thing about that is with these fixtures is if they don't qualify, they've got a huge game to look forward to coming back. and that sort of whets the appetite. And by that time they'll be game ready, and he'll have an imprint of what the way the team's playing, and is there better flow? They'll all be match fit. They'll all be up to speed. So it can work for you and against you. But ideally, what Michael will want, he'll want the whole lot. He'll want to qualify. He'll want to beat Ross County, and then he'll want to beat Celtic at Ibrox.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your gut feeling first like?
You know what? It's always my preference to get the second leg at home. So they've got to go full steam ahead, get the crowd up. The record, particularly in the Europa League run, was great. Not so great in the Champions League last year when they're a really tough group, but any sort of a lead at all, you'd have to be delighted with Pete going over there. You optimistic, Ruffy?
Yeah, I think at home, I think we all know what the Celtic and Rangers fans are at home, and a lot of big players have came to these two venues and been not starstruck, but they'll remember it for the rest of their life, and that's what kind of night it is. So Rangers have got to get in the front foot. They've got to get the whole squad behind them. They've got to lift the whole stadium. And when it's bouncing at these parts, we've seen it with Scotland as well. When the stadium's bouncing, the players seem to turn up.
Yeah, sometimes every cloud has a silver lining. You must have been in the dressing room right after the Basel game and just looked at Sutton, missing that sitter and thought, you've just ruined our chances of Champions League, our season.
Never forgiven them for it, actually.
Yeah. And then you went on to the UEFA Cup.
Yeah. So you're so low, right? But there was a different expectation on us then, Pete.
Yeah.
Because we were a very, very good team, you know what I mean? I don't think there's the same. Listen, there may be expectation on Rangers, but it's an unrealistic one at the minute. They've not got the quality that we had, and it was a massive disappointment, which turned into something really good. So you don't see it obviously at the time coming. You know what I mean? But there's no better feeling than knowing if you qualify for the Champions League. As a player and as a coach, it's the best competition to be in, and you only get better from the experiences.
Yeah. You're going to enjoy this next part because sometimes people have to grovel. They become soup takers basically because they're so far out of the loop at the moment. And I turn to Tam. Hibs won 2-1 against Raith Rovers. You're in danger. You're in danger of getting barred as well.
What have you done there?
I've done it. He wrote a column. He's up and down with Hibs. 1 minute they're world beaters, the next minute the manager's out the door, and of course, you write a column and you've painted the manager as David Brent. So it's worse than the turn up on Graham.
I actually called Kenny Shields that one day.
David Brent.
He was doing one of his monologues against us now. David Brent's off again.
So. Not a good result for Hibs. As I said, they had a tough game during the week there. Get his out over in Switzerland. Come back. He played as strong a team I think as he could possibly do. He played Boyle. He played Johan. And they got through. Listen, I spoke to Ian Murray last night. I'm good friends with Ian, and he felt as if they could have just held on. They scored, they equalised, and then Hibs scored like a minute later, 2 minutes later. He couldn't hold on just to get the crowd, to turn a little bit. Hibs, Venti came on and scored straight away. So. Good result for Hibs. Raith Rovers are a good side. Again, Hibs have got a massive game coming up as well, and they just needed to get through. It takes the pressure off him. He needs to keep winning. He needs to keep winning games, Peter. I still don't think the fans are convinced by him, but if he wins, then he'll turn them round.
How difficult a job is it for him to stop the players having an inferiority complex when all the hype will be around? This is a Premier League side. This is Unai Emery. Look at the quality. There's a wee bit of what I call misguided nostalgia about the return of John McGinn, when John McGinn is going to come there in an Aston Villa shirt and be like the hounds of the Baskervilles around anybody in a green shirt.
Yeah, listen, I think John McGinn was Neil worked to him. He was a fantastic player for Hibs. Fantastic, still a fantastic player, even better now. Hibs need to look after their own business. They need to get wired into Aston Villa. They need to go and attack. They've nothing to lose, Peter. Hibs have got nothing to lose. Aston Villa, massive favourites. Everybody fancies Aston Villa to spank Hibs home and away. Can you get the crowd up? Can you force a couple of corners? Get a couple of shots early on, just to get the confidence up that you can actually do it. You can compete with these guys, and if Hibs do that, they're capable of getting the result. I don't fancy them away from home. I think there's different kettle of fish down there at Villa Park, but at home, Easter Road, European night. Listen, you never know. Villa are massive favourites, but Hibs can get after them. You never know.
Okay, I'm going to put you in the position as a former Hibs manager. Now, you've just said a couple of minutes ago something very relevant. Celtic were a right good team when they came up against a Liverpool and a Blackburn Rovers, but they still thought you were not a good team, and they were definitely going to go through. So what would you say? What would you say to those Hibs players if you were in that dressing room with all this hype around the team, because you've been there?
I would look at the pace that the Hibs have got, right? So you got Boyle and Johan, right? Like Johan really impressed me with his pace when I've seen him live for the first time. Villa play a high line, Pete, and they got punished at St James's Park. I don't know if you saw the game. Like, second half, Newcastle ran amok. Now I'm not comparing Hibs to Newcastle, but if there's one avenue that they can exploit, it's getting down the sides of them with this high line with Boyle and Ewan's pace. And they've got to try and be physical, although they're a big, strong team, Villa. They are. And I would probably send someone out to give John a little rap on the ankle early doors just to get the crowd going as well. But he's in fine form. Like, he was brilliant yesterday against Everton. It's a tall order, let's get it right. We're not you can't paint it any other way, and they've just got to go out and enjoy it and enjoy the challenge and try and get the first goal, because it gives them something to hold on to.
Yeah. Was that something that Martin said to you at any point? Listen, give somebody a rap. There's a quality.
100%. Yeah.
Was there one that you were able to stick to your mind?
Do within the laws of the game, like, you know what I mean? But sort of, he would always say, like, somebody needs to set the blue paper off, like, whether it be a tackle, whether it be a run, whether it be a dribble, whether it be a save. But usually in my department, it was, going in a good tackle or going harry somebody and take the ball off them. So that was in any game, whether it be a European game or certainly a Celtic Rangers game, it was, going put a marker down for the game.
Yeah, and I'm testing your memory here. Was there any foreign player that you can remember that just looked and thought, game on here, because you've just absolutely hit him a right belt?
Riquelme. Do you remember
Riquelme? He was some player.
Oh, what's a player? I regretted that.
Was that when he was at Villarreal?
Villarreal,
he was what a player he was.
Really, really good. And he played just that. When you see players now getting beyond the midfield line, they were doing that 20 years ago. These types of players, Riquelme, and we're talking about Bergkamp off camera, Deco. These types of players, these brilliant number 10s, but Riquelme was out up there with any of them.
Yeah,
and he was tough as teak as well.
Was he? Another good thing about him as well is, and this is why I love certain midfielders, he could take the ball with three players around him.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the great players could take it. Zidane was another one. Like, he was just poetry in motion. And the game seemed to slow down when these boys had the ball. There'd be hurly-burly, and then it would come to Bergkamp or Zidane. Everything would almost stop, like, and they played the game at their own pace.
Yeah.
They're just that brilliant knack they were brilliant players. And don't get me wrong, they weren't slow. They had really quick feet, and they were miles ahead of other players, like, when the ball came to them.
Just in case you think you're missing something, Ruffy, I did mention to Neil, every now and then when you watch YouTube and you see a game that comes back from yesteryear, and we were talking about Arsenal against Leicester, and I said, I'm sure that ball, when it came into the box, when Bergkamp just kills it with one, then bends, he went, no, that's Mary Elliott, that was
I was 20 yards back going, that is unbelievable. Honestly, Tom, that day, people ask me who's the best player. On that day, he was just the best. Like, he was amazing. And we got away with 3-3 draw. How we got away with it, I'll never know.
It was a great
nicked it. Absolutely nicked it.
So Hibs, okay, we're not filled with great confidence, but let's hope they can, as Neil mentioned there.
It's not about great confidence, Pete. It's about, like, realistic. This is a top Premier League club. You've spent millions, and they've got a top manager.
Yeah.
And they've beaten Everton 4-0. I think Villa will go well this year, Tom, in the Premier League. Yep. I think they'll be around the top six. Yep. Thereabouts. So, the realism is it's a really, really tough draw, and they've got to go out there, try and enjoy it and give their best.
They're favourites to win the tournament.
Well, there you go. That doesn't surprise me.
I was going to say to you, he's the type of manager, Unai Emery, he could hand away one of his winners' medals because he's not used to that Europa League.
Oh, incredible. His record's incredible.
Yeah.
He's not only with Sevilla, but he won it with Villarreal as well.
Yeah, that's right. Ruffy, 4-0, Hearts against Partick Thistle. Go on, put a brave face on it.
No, I don't think you can. I think the brave face was the support that was there. Unbelievable away support. They got right behind the team. team didn't do particularly well. I think they're like a lot of other teams. At the end of the season, they lost 5 first-team players to other clubs. You know, the boys left. 5 really good players, very influential players. The guys that have come in haven't really replaced them or come up to the speed that they were on. You could see that the other day. It might take a wee bit more time, but certainly the support are still behind them. And they just need to get winning. Unfortunately, they've got Queen's Park at the weekend, who are doing particularly well as well. So I think they need to start picking up points. But no, well done to Hearts. The Hearts are buoyant just now, and they'll be looking forward to their games coming up.
Yeah, and a big one against PAOK in the Conference League. And Stevie Naismith, after watching that win, reckons that Hearts have ammunition that can cause them problems.
But they're a really good team with loads of threats going forward, so we'll need to defend really well and we'll need to be solid. But I consistently say we must have a threat in this tie, and I think we will have a threat. And as you've seen today, players have come in and scored some good goals. But to go through in any of these games, you need to carry a threat, and we'll do that in this tie as we did in the last tie.
You confident for Hearts in this one?
Maybe at home, away from home. You know, you go over there, you can see it's a very loud atmosphere. You know, they get away with the flares. Now we're not allowed to let them off.
Tell me about
I think let's just bring in buckets and just let them off and just go, there you go. So hostile environment. A lot of the Hearts players probably have been in that environment before, but at home, you know, you would always fancy in that Tynecastle environment that we keep talking about.
This is the game that Hearts, I think the Greek teams, Cypriot teams, whatever, I think particularly at home, they're strong. I don't think they're great travellers, Greek teams. So I think if Hearts can take a lead over there, they're going to have to. Then they've got a lot of people writing Hearts off, but I think Hearts at home are capable of beating this team. Way from home different, but I quietly fancy Hearts to maybe get through here.
Yeah,
I would.
I would. I'd love that.
I would love it. Them and Aberdeen. Listen, Hibs have no chance, unfortunately. But I think Aberdeen hacking and Hearts PAOK. I think they've both got a chance, Peter.
That's what we need, isn't it?
Got to be positive.
I mean, I know everybody thinks it's a drab cliche, but we really do want out with Celtic and Rangers for the coefficient, and I think financially to set these clubs up for a couple of years with a real bit of money.
They deserve it as well. Look, Tom's hit the nail on the head. Greeks don't travel well, but they will be really, really strong at home. I was impressed with Hearts the other night. It's a great result against Rosenborg, having gone a goal down as well, so they showed a bit of character as well. Yeah, it's a step up, but it's not insurmountable, that's for sure.
Yeah, fingers crossed that they can do it. I'm glad that Lawrence Shanklin has distanced himself from a possible move to Saudi Arabia. There are some people out there who love the game, Ruffy. I know you would have been on that flight.
I'd have been with him. Are you kidding? Louis Vuitton suitcases, Ruffy.
I knew you were going to say that. I've always been a big fan of the Saudi Pro League. Where am I? Brilliant.
I don't think it got to the money stages. It must have just been agents talking between each other, because I think if it had been money had come into it, I think Hearts would have accepted it, and so would the player.
I think he's got the same agent as Jack Henry, and I think that's where the link came from.
Yeah, well, listen, you would
scoring goals, isn't he? He's a goal scorer, isn't he?
Well, I think
he had a terrific, really good season last year.
Yeah, and he should be thinking about the Scotland squad on a regular basis.
Why not?
Yeah,
you know, Lyndon Dykes has done it. You know, and he played up here for quite a while. Probably not as prolific as Lawrence as well, but there's a few things he needs to work on his game, but why not? You know, he's got to keep that consistency going now.
Absolutely. And if you are going over to Greece, don't forget to get yourself a macaroon bar and a flare, as Ruffy says, because they're just selling them outside.
They love Paro out there. They love a Paro. Yeah.
Do they same as Cyprus?
Mental for it, aye.
Yeah, mental, absolutely. Aberdeen, we know that they've beaten Hacken before, so we certainly hope that's the case. It's another one of these. They got through against Stirling Albion. I'm sure Darren Young would have been more than happy with the dosh.
He was. He's not getting in it, by the way, because I spoke to him the other night, unfortunately. But no, listen, again, Aberdeen, I don't think they were at their best, but they've got big games coming up. Just need to go and win the game, and they went and won the game. Stirling Albion, put it up to them and gave them a game, but next round and think about Hacken now.
Yeah, and of course Barry Robson likes to point out, I think it's a good time for managers to emphasise this, that they didn't seem to get any credit for the way they played against Celtic.
Everybody remembers that it's just their third game. We're trying to build a new squad. I think we could maybe mention that. It's not. I mean, we played against Celtic last week and no one gave us real credit, and that was a treble winning team they had. We're building a whole new team. So, yes, we're getting there, and we look sharp at times, things we can get a bit better at, but no, we're going along and we're in the next round of the Cup.
Well, they're my tip to finish third, Neil, and Dave Cormack has come out and said, listen, they're close to signing 2 or 3 more players, so they're backing the manager. Which is great news for Barry, you know. They were there, but they finished third last season, yeah. I think Hearts will finish third this year. Yeah. I quite like the look of Hearts, the way they're going at the minute. I don't know who the players that you're talking about Aberdeen will bring in, but that's always good to hear that they're going to add to the squad. I thought they played okay against Celtic last week and maybe could have got something out of the game, but we've already talked about Celtic. They're nowhere near the level yet. Yeah. Okay, St Mirren, Rafi. 1-0. Yet again, he's just winning all the plaudits, you know, for his team. They do the business, they score the goals, and they look even better than last season. Is that possible? Yeah, I think they are. I think they're more confident. I think the players are more confident. You know, a great goal at the weekend, probably the goal of the weekend. And what they're doing is now they're just churning out wins. You know, before they were losing goals, maybe late on in games, not concentrating properly. But that's not the case now. You know, they're getting into a winning mentality, particularly at home. Yeah, I don't think Motherwell manager Stuart Kettle was too happy that they were still playing against 11 men for St Mirren.
But you know what, I'm more up with the challenge in the second half from Charles Dunn on Mika Bereth. It's an absolutely horrendous tackle, 2-footed tackle, straight leg, and I've now got a striker sitting in the treatment bed down there. And from my opinion, from my thought process, I was instructed that these types of tackles were outlawed for the game. Yeah, it's times like that where you want officials to maybe spot it, look at it, and address it. And yeah, I mean that's.
They're not very happy because they never paid for it, didn't they? Yeah. So they get away with a red card. So they're Stephen Robertson would be delighted, but listen, we were looking for the tackle. I've not seen the tackle personally, but if he's really strong about it, then usually you think it was a poor tackle.
Pete Ruffy's told me it was a bad tackle, so it must be a bad one, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not telling you. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Have you borrowed some kind of Russian satellite? Have you got the old first thing?
You get 10 satellites and he says, what's going on in his house? He's going right.
Ruffy, I have searched everywhere for that tackle and I can't see it anywhere.
The conditions were horrendous. Yeah. It was just torrential. So I think Willie Collum gave the boy the benefit of the doubt. He actually slid in with the momentum.
With his 2 feet. You don't think Charles done him?
Oh, like that, Tom. He's been working on that, hasn't he?
That's been for the whole season.
It's the scriptwriters in there, isn't it? Yeah.
Bad to say the least. Livingston, we've talked about David Martindale consistently highlighting, you know, his lack of a big squad and adding players, trying to add them with the budget that he has, and obviously he's still been trying to sell Newbley for more than a few months now. But they've got a quarter-final tie with Rangers at Ibrox. They might get a wee bit of cash out of it, Ruffy, and they managed to dispatch Ayr United.
Yeah, I thought Ayr United might have given them a better game, but in all fairness, I listened to David's interview after the game. He said it could have went either way. He was really impressed by Ayr United, with the quality they've got there. He also chipped in that it should be time when we start debating about teams like Ayr United being in the Premiership. Another 6 teams. If you look at the results at the weekend, most of the Championship teams done particularly well. I do think they could add something to the Premier, and it would help teams like Livingston. Yeah. You know.
You always like in Scottish football, we're never too far away from someone having an opinion that gets us all going. And Aidan McGeady at the end of the game was interviewed, and he certainly didn't miss Lee Johnson, his former boss at Hibs.
No, I never. I mean, Lee Johnson probably retired me twice in the media, to be honest. I got maybe when I came back playing against Motherwell was my first game back. I spoke about it. It was just dark times because I was going into the training ground every single day for 4 months, and that was probably the lowest where I thought, is there any real point in this? But then when I was fit again, I was like, well, I can play, no bother.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't get the gist of that at all.
The gist of it was basically the manager had come out and said, you know, it was almost as if he was finished. and he didn't see it that way. He was just working himself back to fitness after the injury.
Did Lee say that publicly?
In his mind, he did.
Right, okay.
You know, in interviews, as if to say, well, it's a long road back. Doesn't see him playing for Hibs. Doesn't see him as a future. So he's miffed.
Well, I can understand that because, you know, Aidan will make that decision on how he feels and how his body feels, you know. So, and I actually saw him a couple of times last season playing for Hibs. I thought he was one of the better players.
Yeah,
you know. So, I think he's gone in there now as a player, coach, technical director. Smart boy, Aidan. He's had a great career, and he might add something a little bit different to what Ayr bring. But obviously, there's a bit of bad blood between him and his former manager, which surprises me because they're both together at Sunderland and then together at Hibs. So Aidan can be quite outspoken at times. You know, he doesn't hold back. You know, and you need to get to know him, to understand him. But if he's coming out publicly, then there's obviously been a lot going on between the two of them, which I wasn't aware of.
Yeah. Finished Airdrie 3, Ross County 4. Ross County made heavy weather of it, but Malky Mackay doesn't care. They're through.
And overall, we found a way to win, which is the biggest thing of the lot. The Premier League team today found a way to win, and that's what you've got to do. Whether you play a distinct style or whether you play whatever tactically how you play against the team you're playing against, you have to find a way to win the game, and we did that today, and it's a great testament to that group of players in there, the way they've started the season and the way that they're fighting for each other and the consistency levels that I've got compared to what I had last year.
He's always talked about the difficulties of getting players to Dingwall. Well, he's got some players that have shown a bit of fight. We've been impressed with them.
I think they started the season really strongly. I think they're scoring goals. You know, 2 at Partick, you know, a couple against St Johnstone, you know, 4 at the weekend. You know, they've got guys like Jordan White up there, Simon Murray, Neil knows Simon as well, busy striker, you know, gets his goals, not prolific, but when he's hot. He can go on the run, he's scoring goals just now, his confidence is up. Lotari, the boy at Wide's good player as well, Dandat, so they've got good players, Ross County, and I don't see them being any problems at the bottom this season. I think they could be maybe pushing for that 5th or 6th spot in the Premier League this year.
Here's the draw for the last 8. I think the surprise is no Celtic. The good news for everyone else is that there's maybe a real chance here. Some of them win that draw. Kilmarnock, Hearts, Rangers, Livingston, Ross County, Aberdeen, Hibs and St Mirren. When they look at what Kilmarnock did against Rangers, some of them might think to themselves, there's a trophy up for grabs here.
Of course there is, yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of, they're really good games there. I quite like the look of the majority of them. I think Rangers will be comfortable winners against Livy, but I think the other 3 ties, Kilmarnock and Hearts, Hibs, St Mirren and Ross County, Aberdeen, that's a humdinger. I think they're all up for grabs.
Yeah, and of course the downside to it is, of course, you'll be standing there again. You'll get a gig out of that. You'll be standing there with Michael Stewart and Connie. It's a bit more downbeat here. You get to wear what you want.
Listen, you know me, I'm a social chameleon, Pete. We adapt.
Absolutely. That's what I love about you. Take a check at anybody's door, Ruffy. That's why I looked at you, Ruffy. That's why I looked at you, son. Yeah. It's a good draw. And I look at it now. Out with Rangers, who are now red hot favourites to win it, who would you put your money on?
Neil's already touched on it. You know, you've got to look at Aberdeen, Hibs and Hearts. You know, they'll all be looking to take the support to a semi-final. Semi-finals at this stage of the season are fantastic. You can kick on. Are you going to say who?
Yeah, any chance.
I'm going to go Hearts.
Yeah? Jambos for you?
Yeah. Good question. I'm going to go Ross County.
To win it?
No, to win. I thought you meant to get 3. To win it?
No, I thought you meant. I think Rangers will win it. I think Hearts will get the final.
The final?
Yeah.
If they don't get drawn against Rangers.
Right. Okay. So an outside bet's Hearts.
Yeah.
I think Ross County. They've got a home draw. I think Hibs and St Mirren's a difficult tie, and Kilmarnock and Hearts is a difficult tie. I think if Ross County can beat Aberdeen, they could go all the way. Because as Tom touched on, they've got goals in them, Pete.
Yeah.
And I've been really impressed with the start they've made. You know, I think they've had a fright last year, and they've sort of gone, right, we can't let that happen again. And Malky's got them banging them in.
Okay, I'm going to go with the Dandies. I'm going to go with Aberdeen to cause the upset.
Rangers will win it.
Well, we know that. That's what we've already said that. You don't get the gist of the question. If you were picking an outside runner that could, you know, maybe at Beecher's Brook suddenly go past it.
Aberdeen.
Aberdeen as well?
Yes, Aberdeen.
Yeah.
I think they'll beat Ross County.
Okay, we eventually got there. You can give us your view on that. Don't forget, if you download the app, you've got a little section there where you can get in contact us either by email, or indeed you can actually record a video as well. And we've had lots of the fans speaking on PLZ Soccer. We are asking you outside grounds for your thoughts on a particular game, on Scottish football, and we want to hear more from you. So by all means, get the app and record a video, and we'll put it on the show. It's as simple as that. So, English Premier League, I've got to say, well done to Davy Moyes and West Ham, you know, from the highs of being over there watching them defeat Fiorentina. I sat down happily to watch them thump Chelsea, which was magnificent.
Yeah, and his interview was good after the game. You could see, you know, he's enjoying every minute of it. We all know what's going on behind the scenes. The board seem to be, well, not all the board, some of them like him, some of them don't. And I think winning games obviously takes that wee bit of pressure off you. You know, it's harder for them to have a wee chap at your door and say, can I have a word with you? So the longer he keeps winning, the better. And he's playing good football as well.
Yeah, I like Bowen. I mean,
I really like him. Top player. And 12 million quid from Hull. You know, that's a brilliant bit of business. That result surprised me yesterday, I have to say. And we're down to 10 men as well, Peter.
Yep.
He's still not winning the West Ham fans over for whatever reason. He's just won a European trophy, and like people are still calling for him. Oh, we need a change. Sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for. This guy's been there and done it, and I'm so pleased for him to get a trophy last year, because I think what he's contributed to football management in the UK has been fantastic. And long may it continue for him.
Can you imagine if West Ham's board? Now, I wonder sometimes who's in the board.
It's not sexy enough for a lot of fans, isn't it?
That's the point, Tom, right? But the board are with him.
No, but I'm saying if the board are with him, which is fine. Last year there was a moment where genuinely, even David himself thought, you know, could I be going out the door here if this doesn't go according to plan? But I wonder if they could just sit down and say, listen, if we could back him a wee bit more with the money we've taken in, you know, suddenly he could do something. People say he's pragmatic, you know, he likes to hit in the counter, he likes to come up against teams and defend it. Well, give him some players like Antonio, Bowen, you know, suddenly they've got the boy, is Emerson, is it, from Ajax? Mm-hmm. So give him some players, a wee bit of
match winners. He's an entertainer. Yeah, I get that, but you can only work with what the players that you have. And he gets stereotyped, David, you know, his Everton team were really entertaining. You know, but as he sort of progressed them over the years, and I've seen West Ham play some brilliant attacking football. But you're right, I think he looks at the squad of players that he has at his disposal at the minute. He goes, right, this is the best way we'll play. We'll be defensively well, hard to beat, and then we'll counter attack. But to beat Chelsea, and I thought Chelsea looked good last week against Liverpool in patches, but to beat them 3-1 with 10 men, I didn't see that coming after. That's a brilliant result.
Yeah, fantastic. Here's how it fitted into the rest of the results in the English Premier League. Nottingham Forest edging Sheffield United out by 2-1. Brentford's comfortable win against Fulham. Liverpool 3-1 against Bournemouth. Brighton just continue to not surprise everybody, just entertain them. 4-1 against Wolves. Tottenham 2, Manchester United 0, we'll come to in a minute. City managed to see off United with a solitary strike. Aston Villa 4, Everton 0, West Ham 3, Chelsea 0. And then the other two games still to be played, Crystal Palace, Arsenal, and Luton against Burnley. Now, Spurs. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a 2-0 win against United. Ruffy, they deserved it.
Yeah, they certainly did. Got the goal at the right time, you know, and I thought they were... Again, Man United looked as if, you know, they were the Man United of yesterday, you know, particularly defensively. They didn't look dominant at all. And, I thought they run out good winners, and it was the kind of style of football I think that's what they want to see.
Yeah, Ange Postecoglou, definitely happy with the result, but reckons that they've set a benchmark now for what they should be doing on a regular basis.
If we're going to continue to sort of go down this road, is that, I said before the game that we really need an energy, particularly here at home, and it would have been a shame today that, because you could tell the crowd were up for it if we were flat in our performance, and not so much, obviously you want to win, and that sort of gives everyone the joy they need, but I thought the manner in which we played, it's a great starting point. So when the final whistle goes, you kind of, from my perspective, that's fantastic, fertile ground for me to keep going, rather than sort of, like I said, if we had a flat performance today, it would have been hard. We would have had to work hard. But at the same time now, that kind of, leaves a fairly decent benchmark that we've got to match now, because that's the expectation that we go out there, and because we did it against a very good team today, we do that on a weekly basis.
Right across social media, they're singing his name on the train, on the tube station. The Spurs fans are going crazy.
They are, and I think there was a lot of disrespect about him down south. I mean, Ange Hu, and it was a bit when he came in at Celtic, but I think with Ange Postecoglou, he will not change the way he plays. His style is his style, and I think it's important that he get off to a good start, because it gets the players on board, that style of play. And I watched them against Brentford as well. I thought they were excellent. They're just going to be entertaining to watch, because it doesn't matter if it's Man United, Brentford, Brighton. Spurs are going to play the same way. They're going to play, they're going to press high, they're going to attack at will, and they're going to be great to watch.
Yeah, it's one of those ones now, if they're on the telly, you're just going to turn it on.
And it was a great game to watch, and he did say after the game, like, there's consequences to the way I want them to play, and that's like, sometimes they might leave the door open at the other end, but we're not going to change, as Tom says, they're not going to change their style, and the Spurs fans will love it. Yeah. And I really enjoyed the game, a bit more concerned about Man United at the minute than Tottenham, that's for sure.
Yeah. Have you been in the Tottenham Stadium yet?
I haven't, no, but it looked magnificent on Saturday night.
Yeah, we should all go down there for a wee
jolly up.
A wee jolly up and
sit down with Ange.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get down there and watch a game. What do you think?
That'd be amazing. Yeah, I'd love that.
You don't get that at ViaPlay.
I just told you your time.
So, Ruffy, I'm going to talk to you about it because I watched it. I sat down and watched it. Loved the way Spain played in the Women's World Cup. They deserved their win. In the end, they had too much quality for England.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been watching them. They were disappointing, in the Euros, and they knew that I thought they were going to be favourites, because I think England had went there this year, and they weren't the underdogs, but they weren't the same team that won the Euros. They'd lost 3 or 4 players, but no, again, it's when you get to these finals, and we've all been there, seeing a losing team and the disappointment and the girls' faces and that, it's hard to take, really.
Yeah.
Particularly the celebrating that goes on run about while you're still on the park.
But the thing about it is, although they'll feel the disappointment now, they've reached a final, and women's football in England is massive as well. They are the legacy from that game will be there for all to see in the next 3 or 4 years. Everybody wants to play football down there. They've got a really good structure, which we are trying to get here with a very limited budget.
That'll take time, you know what I mean? But there's 12 million people watched the game yesterday, so you can see the interest. They've done the game so much over the last sort of year and a half. I thought after the semi-final, I watched them beat Australia, and they looked a really good side, and I thought they'd be too strong for Spain, but by all accounts, Spain with a better team. I didn't see that coming, and you think of the problems Spain had going into the tournament with 15 players boycotting and this sort of different opinion of the manager. Well, I mean, they've come up trumps, it's a very special win for Spain as well.
Yeah. Just one footnote, because we always like to deal with every topic in football. We don't shirk opinion, which is basically what we're going to do Monday and Friday. Neil's here on a Monday, which is absolutely fantastic. And also Lee McCulloch is in on the Friday, which is magnificent, because although you'll find that your wardrobe will have to really, be used to the full. The big man McCulloch is just wowing us right now with the new set of teeth that he has. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he wears. It just deflects away from it.
You said it to his face.
We did.
He's a big boy, Jake, you know what I mean?
He just got back from Turkey, by the way. Basically,
he looked amazing, by the way. He was unbelievable. But he's there on the Friday. Last point. The news has just come out. Mason Greenwood will continue his career away from Manchester United. This is a very, very complex situation where I don't think the Manchester United board had any leeway on this one, because there's a real strong fan base who are not happy that they were considering bringing Mason Greenwood back into playing for United.
Yeah, I mean, it's an area I don't want to go into, you know what I mean? Because I think Man United have dealt with it accordingly. Where Mason Greenwood goes with his career now remains to be seen. He's been out of the game for 18 months, 2 years. He's a very talented player, don't get me wrong, but you know, some of his actions in most people's eyes would be unforgivable.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation for United, but they've made the decision on it, which is basically he'll continue his career away from Manchester United. That story will run, and I think until everybody knows all the facts on it, then you know, he's going to have to look and see if a club somewhere else will take a chance on him. It's great to get opinion on the programme. Tam is here as ever. He's in the witness protection at the moment because he can't go to Edinburgh to the festival because, you know...
A few people looking for him, Pete.
That's exactly what it's all about. And
been there, done that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they'll have to look at me. We're still banned from Celtic. Is there anybody else we're banned from, Ruffy? You're in with everybody, aren't you? You're the housewife's favourite.
I've not been banned yet.
Yeah,
he's just got that way of you though. Like,
well, he's going through. He's going
housewife's favourite.
He's going through to the Edinburgh Festival, aren't you? Which is why you're wearing a nice shirt and everything today.
Yes.
And he's got why did you just ruin it with the Skechers?
Yeah.
You don't get shoes in it. Have you not got nice shoes?
See, when you get his 70th, I won't see you, obviously.
Dear Ruffy,
hello. I want to see what you're wearing.
Yeah, absolutely. So do I. But I'll not be here either. Nor will you. Anyway, on that note, don't forget tomorrow we've got the women's football show with Kerry Pollock, Alison McConnell, and of course Aileen Campbell joins us to talk all things football as well. I hope you're going to join us for that. She's on the SFA board as well, and really is fighting the fight for football at the lower level. Especially, she's been fighting the fight for women's football for a long time too. So it's well worth watching that on the Tuesday. Hugh Dallas will be my guest in Straight Talk on the Wednesday, and then the Journal's back on Thursday. And as we mentioned, Lee McCulloch on the Friday. Lots of variety, and we're covering the breaking football news if you download the app, and we'll get the managers and players interviews right across our website. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. I don't know what else we can say to promote PLZ soccer. Come and join the football family. From Ruffy, from Tam, from Neil and myself, Peter Martin, thanks for watching.